Hello and welcome to the Build Better Homes podcast. I'm your host, Royal Mortier, and always the man to my left, I've got Mr. John O'Shea. How are you doing this beautiful day?
I'm doing
John?
good. It's 40 degrees, 38 degrees when I got up this morning, and I know we were just talking about that, and you mentioned the attire that was happening right here.
Yeah. That's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet.
It's a sweater here in Oregon, so it's.
I didn't know you were a grandfather already. I guess you already promoted the cardigan. Pull over. No, it's a cardigan. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, it's getting a little breezy and a little cold here, but the Nordic weather is sometimes welcome, but the gray is a little hard to deal with. How's it on your end?
Yeah, it's good. We're in the low 70s right now.
So hard.
Yeah, I had to wear pants. I'm wearing pants. Once it drops into the high 60s, low 70s, it's no longer shorts weather, it's pants weather, which may seem...
Linen suits and pants and stuff. No socks with loafers.
Yes, there you go. That's the attire
pants
here.
A little too short.
But oddly enough, I did go suit shopping this weekend, and I was amazed at going in to look at suits, and even down here, almost everything is still a wool suit. And I was like, I'm not wearing wool when it's typically in the 90s. Who the heck's walking around in a wool suit in the 90s?
Yeah,
no.
We're talking Miami Vice, baby. Linen suits, no shirt, maybe a tank top underneath.
My gosh. Yeah. I was like, I am not digging the sound of that, but it's beautiful. And just so, where for people timeline, we're actually recording this just before Thanksgiving. This will go live the day after Thanksgiving. So to everybody, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We're looking forward to it and getting some time with family. We just moved, so we're staying local. We're not traveling. People want to come see us. They can come to us. We just moved. We're like, no, you can come here. We're not going anywhere. How about you, John?
Well, we have 2 in diapers, which is just about as complicated as a move. So everyone's coming to see us too. They're like, it's easier for us to just come to you. We're like, oh no, we'll be there. They're like, no, we understand. We're coming to you. So we're smoking a turkey, done that for the last 4 years, and whether here or there, wherever I may be. But yeah, here I'm going to smoke a turkey and have the in-laws, my family over, and some other family members, and it'll just be a good time. And I might, leverage some of the guys to help me move some stuff around while they're here, because we are kind of out in McMinnville, which is a little segregated away from family. So I have some muscle here. We're going to do some rearranging. So,
hey, you got to put them to work somehow. Work the turkey off. Make sure they don't forget the post-turkey naps.
Tryptophan, right?
Yeah, all the tryptophan in that turkey. Yep. Yeah. So, well, cool. Very cool. Well, today's kind of a cool one. We want to bring value to the listeners. And today we bring value in the fact that we are actually launching another division of PLIRIS. And we're going to kind of talk about what that division is going to be doing for our home builder clients and others, and really going to be helpful in the overall building design and construction industry. And so I'm really excited about this one. So that division is going to be PLIRIS Forensics. And so we're going to really have a deep dive into what we're going to be offering within PLIRIS Forensics, how you may be able to become a part of the team if you are a subject matter expert, or if you are trying to avoid a lawsuit or trying to improve your deliverables, how you can hire our experts to come and assist with that. So this is going to be kind of a back and forth with John and I, and I'm just really excited to bring this to the industry. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah, well, just when I think of what forensic consulting actually is, or what is PLIRIS Forensics, I think of like CSI and the TV show, and fingerprints and drama, and somebody who was the butler and hit the thing over the hit the head over the guy in the study, and the clue, and I think of all of those things put together. And so, but that's not the world that we live in, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
So what is it? What is forensics, and what's it mean?
Right. So very much like you, when I hear forensics, I immediately think like the show CSI, which, they have 14 different spinoffs of it by this point. The original one, always the best, with the head guy. He was like, the bug guy. He knew all the different things about all the different bugs.
Yeah.
In this situation, it's very similar in that we're taking a forensics approach to buildings. So in that, we're bringing on subject matter experts. Those may be people licensed high level degrees, or they may just be people that have a significant amount of time and experience with the products and the materials. I remember one specific thing that got brought up. I took a special building forensics or engineering forensics course, and the professors of it brought up this massive lawsuit that occurred in Whirlpool, in which they had to recall a significant amount of refrigerators due to failure of the compressor pump systems. And during the dig into how did this happen, how did we have such a massive failure, they came across a letter from a maintenance guy to the engineering that he had gotten to see the design of this refrigerator. And this was a guy that was just a maintenance worker. And he saw it. He pointed out to them that there was going to be inadequate airflow to the compressor, which would result in them overheating and failing prematurely. The engineers of the product just brushed it off and just took it as, oh, whatever, you're just a guy that works on these. We're engineering, we've got the degrees, we've got this. And they ignored it, and it ended up costing them tens of millions of dollars as a result. So that's a big value that we have hopefully and slowly changed in the industry, where the experts, the forensics people, and what we do forensics wise, it's a lot of bringing people in that have experience with those specific products, with those specific materials, and whether they have a degree, they have licensing, they have certifications. We're going to be bringing in people that really know what's going on, and they're their own expert bug guy in their own sense, that they can track down the bugs and the issues, and everything about a building that can fail has a path, right? And the biggest thing is bringing in the right experts to find the solution. If you listened a couple episodes ago when we had Nate McIntyre on, he talked about this one case where they were like, oh, we got a leak in the roof, or we got a leak in the building envelope. And that wasn't actually it at all. It was a discontinuity in the building envelope itself, to where essentially the walls themselves were sweating internally, causing what looked like a leak, to where water was actually coming out of light fixtures and outlets. And it was a humidity and temperature and permeability issue, not a water infiltration issue at all. So it really takes getting the right people in the right places. So that's what we do. Very much like you would see in CSI, tearing apart a crime scene. We're going into a building and analyzing it and trying to find out who done it, right?
Right.
Who.
There's three parts to this, right? There's the litigation part, right? Mm-hmm. There's the insurance companies that surely are always involved in these things. And then there's the attorneys that are involved as well, right? And so PLIRIS Forensic aims to house a group of professionals and experts in different building forensic science expertise, right? And then connect those people with attorneys and insurance companies that either have claims or litigation going on. And so it's less CSI Miami and more hard hat with a microscope and document, right? Everything and investigate everything. And so can you tell us a little bit more about how you make those things defensible? What's your methodology for that? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So one of the things we try and do with our main company, PLIRIS, is with our builders, we try and make our builders a hard target. Right? Because so often in many states, a development gets built and then it's how long until the attorney shows up.
Because there's a plaintiff and a defendant here, right?
Right. Exactly. And so it's so common that a development gets done, attorney comes in shortly after development's done. It's like, you got a door that's creaky, you got a window that's leaking, you got these things wrong. You got cracks in your driveway. We can all come together and go after the builder.
The big bad builder, right?
Right. The big bag builder and their big bags of money, make them pay for all this stuff. And, in those situations, the only people that really win are the attorneys. It really is the case. The attorneys are the ones that win. They get a big percentage and they sell a big thing. And in the end, the actual end user, the people that are affected, oftentimes have wasted a bunch of time with high expectations of the compensation that never comes through. But then it drives up insurance costs for the builder. It drives up insurance costs for even the homeowners, and drives up the overall cost of construction.
And the resolution could be years later. as well.
Oh, very much so.
You know,
Very much so. I've never had a case that I've been involved in that didn't get resolved, that didn't take years for resolution.
Yeah,
so
that's tough.
the biggest thing is initially we want to try and make our builder a hard target, and we can do that with our parent company, with PLIRIS, with providing high quality plans, high quality detailing. We have experts that we can send out, build mock-ups, provide renderings. We're working on a system where we actually have QR codes on the plans, scan those QR codes, and that takes them to a film that we basically assembled with renderings of how the different systems come together. They can literally watch this minute-long video of, oh, this overlaps over this to properly create my building envelope.
Sure.
And or properly create the path of water out away from it. If it does come to a situation of, hey, we think we've got a lawsuit and we're working to try and come predominantly to the defense, but in all aspects of it, what we're going to do is we're going to come in there and we're going to provide, our experts are going to provide the expert opinion. Whether it's what the plaintiff wants to hear or the defense wants to hear, we're going to come in there and say, hey, this is what the situation is, and this is what's going on, and let the attorneys decide.
Sure.
There's also, other parts of it where either plaintiff and defense come together and say, hey, we're just going to hire this one expert or this expert, and the expert's going to do the investigation, and whatever they say is the fault is whatever they say is the fault, and we'll decide it from there, which is almost a better way to do it, because nobody wins when engineers start arguing with each other, right?
Yeah.
Because every engineer or every expert can come in and go, well, this study says this, well, that study says that, and they can just argue and bicker and waste a bunch of extra time. So I really like the umpire, the common expert. That's a real more streamlined way to attack these things. Again, things that we've done in the past and will be doing in the future. But that's kind of, hey, we may have a case. Or some builders, we just had a builder where they knew there was an issue. There's proactive builders and then there's reactive builders. The proactive builders, they find out that there's an issue on the development or on the homes they did, and they're really trying to be proactive to find the resolution and the solution.
Right.
So it doesn't become a lawsuit. And those are great. We really love those, where the builder is trying to figure out, what did they do wrong? How do we fix it? How do we make those errors in the future? And that's all pre-lawsuit, pre-litigation type scenarios. In the case that it does go to a lawsuit, that's more the reactive builder. Hey, you guys are suing us. All right, here's my insurance. Talk to their attorneys, and we're going to do whatever they tell us to. We've had those where, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And the lawsuit had to happen in order for the builder to do something about it. And those are the ones that drag on forever. And so with those, we come in as an expert, depending on what division we're defending or we're trying to investigate. And I had one where we got brought in on it, and it was blatantly a soils issue. And the builder did not properly prepare the soils underneath the home. We had geotech reports, and it was blatantly obvious climbing underneath the house.
The compaction wasn't done right.
The site was not over excavated.
Yeah.
Gravel was not properly placed.
Yeah.
Everything was not done as it was supposed to be. What was funny was we're there doing the investigation, and the builder had a site cleared or prepping for the foundation. They were going to be setting the foundation forms the next day. And we walk over and we literally take photos of this prepped site not in compliance with the geotech report. And it's the same builder as the 6 or 8 homes that he's being sued on directly next door. Yeah. And the site is improperly prepped right there. But what was interesting is on that case, it was blatantly obvious, like, hey, this is a soils issue. Well, when we all came to the table for like the first time, everybody was there. We had the site contractor, the guy that cleared the site. We had the concrete contractor. We had the sheetrock contractor. We had the mechanical contractor. We had the electrician. We even had the contractor that did the flat work for the sidewalk was all part of this lawsuit. And we're just like, people that have no involvement in what actually is occurring is getting pulled into this lawsuit. Again, attorneys get involved. Attorneys aren't cheap. Experts get involved. Experts aren't cheap.
Yeah. Insurance
prices go up. Everything goes up. So this is where, as an industry, it is much better overall for a builder to be proactive versus reactive. But, in the case of what it is, it goes into the litigation. We have experts there to assist with that in all aspects of it.
When you have the litigation, do you have a process that you go by for handling litigation support?
What we're doing with PLIRIS Forensics is something kind of try to set us above the others. We're not the first company to provide experts, right? But some big things that we do provide, we provide mentorship and coaching and other stuff of the newer experts that we have in our portfolio. But also when an attorney or an insurance company comes to us and it's like, hey, we need an expert. What we want to be coming to them is with three, at the minimum of three experts that meet the criteria and what they're looking for and are within a close vicinity of where the case is so they can get there. Get there easy. Yeah. So geographically and educationally, can they support this project? And the goal is to have a minimum of three. So we send those to them. And what we do is, it used to be, it's just a CV. We're just providing a CV like, hey, this is the person. Here's a headshot of them. Here's the cases they've worked on in the past. Do they meet what you need? And a project manager on PLIRIS Forensics team will handle all of that. Right. So once a case is submitted, they're immediately interacting with the insurance company, the attorneys, and placing the experts. Where we are really trying to go above and beyond is we're actually going to have a full video interview with every single expert that comes on. And this has been due to a constant frustration that I've heard from the real estate attorneys or construction defect attorneys is the person on paper had all the knowledge in the world, but when we got them in a mediation or on the stand, they couldn't communicate at a level that anybody else could understand them.
Yeah.
So having the ability to provide clear explanation of what is going on and how to fix it in terms and examples that the general public can understand is extremely important. So I don't care if you have a PhD, if you can't explain that concept, that process to somebody that maybe was a high school dropout, it's not beneficial, right? It's not beneficial. So you have to have that dual ability. And that's really where the mentoring and coaching beyond it really is going to be of value to our experts themselves, because that doesn't go away, whether they continue working with us or not, but also to our end client, where we can really know that person with the master's degree and a PhD can talk at a level that the people actually executing the work or deliberating who's responsible can sort out. We had one case where the attorneys were fighting for the wrong side, were defending the wrong position because the expert, first off, they had a very strong accent, but they spoke in such terms that they couldn't fully determine. They thought, based on what he was saying and how he was saying it, that it was this person was at fault.
Yeah.
And then finally, they got him on the stand and he was like, no, that's not what I said at all. It was actually this, so it was a full flip, right? They took it all the way to court and fully flipped it.
I don't know if you've ever seen those translators that you can like talk into and then they'll like say something to another person. If you say too much into that, it'll turn it into some really truncated little like sentence or two. And it says something that's completely wrong. So that's a language barrier, but like just a strong accent, a dialect that you can't understand. Sometimes we've all been frustrated and we've been there. So that's a really good solution. The video kind of puts that expert out there. You see who you're going to get. You can hear how they speak, how they articulate things, and they kind of explain who they are. And it kind of, everybody likes to talk about themselves. So hopefully that comes through in the best way possible in the video. And I think that's a great step up in the right direction for the industry for sure. And it's a good competitive advantage to have.
Well, and we can also use those video interviews in our coaching and our mentoring of those experts, right? Because we can help them and be like, hey, it took you 90 seconds to describe this. Describe that to me in 15 seconds. Yeah.
So let's talk about where the expert witness testimony, and because it looks like they fall apart for the most part in the courtroom.
Right.
And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. So we have the litigation part of it. That's where we're doing our investigation, right? We're placing the experts. They're doing their investigation. They're developing their reports, and now with what we have with our technology, I mean, it's pretty insane how much we can bring to the table with this. And, we have large real estate owners that we're working with where we're able to map out their properties. One example is a 17-story hotel that we're working on. And we developed an entire walkthrough model of this 17-story hotel with one of our partners. And then we're able to use that model and highlight within that walkthrough model areas of issue. And that specific 17-story hotel, unfortunately, was on the airline's flight path. Otherwise, we would have also flown a drone and done a full close-up 3D model of the outside of the building and highlighted everything that was wrong with the building envelope, which is pretty cool. But those are building owners that can be nationwide or even international, and we're able to provide this 3D mock-up of their building, show them where all the pinch points at, and then there's no question, right? Well, there's no question whatsoever because that model is shareable. So they can share it with their contractors, their maintenance crew. We can develop a scope of work and actually embed it into the model. So they just click on a little Post-it note within this 3D model and go, oh, here we need to do this, this, and this. Here's what the whole list scope of work is. Got it. On it. Some of these buildings are so huge. There's hundreds, if not thousands of windows or hundreds of thousands of doors. And if we tell them, hey, this shower has a crack in it and a number gets transposed or incorrectly read, they're going and they're replacing the wrong shower or replacing the wrong window or doing something like that. With a 3D model, with a paired scope of work and a full detailed plan of what that repair is, it eliminates all of that.
Gotcha. So, is this the same one that you were talking about before, that you actually make the model and you set a baseline somehow and you actually see if things move from like a vertical standpoint, or is that the same thing, or was that a different project?
Yeah, so we can do that. So there's two aspects to that. So like in downtown jurisdictions, like we were talking about this with Nate, right? So he's one of our partners that can do the Matterport modeling is what they call it. So we come through with this 3D camera and go through every point that we're shooting at camera is like every 5 to 7 feet or so. And the camera and the technology just stitches everything together to create this massive model that we can then do so much with those models. It's really amazing. Well, what they do is they do that, like say a building is being proposed to be built next to an already existing building, or the main point of concern is typically these historic unreinforced masonry structures. They're very brittle, right? They're big, heavy structures that are very brittle. So they're very susceptible to ground movement that can cause cracking and failures around them. So they'll go through and they'll do a Matterport model, and they can do that at different phases of construction of the building adjacent them. And we can literally track in real time any damages that occur to the structure while the adjacent structure is being built. Yeah. That's the real time, hey, this happened. The other thing that can be done is we set survey targets, and those survey targets, you post them up on the outside of the building and you work with a surveyor. And again, they can come in at different points during the construction of the adjacent building and shoot the survey targets to determine the overall height from different registered points. We can get them to the thousandth of a foot. Yeah, super finite. Super finite, depending on what level of survey we're doing. So if they are seeing any ground movement that's affecting the structure, we see it right there through the survey. And then the Matterport model is actually tracking what damage has that movement resulted in. Right. And so we can track it a couple different ways. That's a very specific, downtown heavy construction is never going to end. Buildings continue to age out, be demoed, and something newer, bigger, better is going to be put back in. So those are highly important. And I'm a huge fan of historic structures, so that's a cool thing to be a part of. Yeah, we digressed a little bit there on the technology, but going back to the courtroom, because that's, again, what everybody thinks about when you think about, the kind of the secondary level of the forensics. It's the data collection and the study and the actual investigation part of it. And then you go, okay, well, what happens next? Well, then something happens in the courtroom, right? And so we are going to produce these bio videos for our experts to put them out there to the different attorneys and different insurance companies so they can see who they're getting. But generally, I would imagine when the pressure's on and the courtroom, the hearing is going on, there's important things that the experts will need. And we make sure that through our interview process that they have these certain criteria so that they don't fall apart in the courtroom. You've told me before that experts lose cases when they try to be advocates instead of analysts. And so what are some of the criteria that we look for when we're going to bring in our experts? Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is to be unbiased, right? I mean, that's the big thing for any expert, and you really want that. And it's always important, especially like with us, is you're not having just one expert of the same expertise or the same background reviewing just one case. Right. And so that's where it's helpful for us to have a library of experts where if we have a case that's high profile or something that's maybe out of the norm, if we think maybe we have an expert that's being biased on that, we can actually just give those court case documents to another one of our experts and say, hey, I want you to QC these and tell us what you really think is going on here. And that allows us to weed out any of that unbiasedness internally. But the biggest thing, as I tell people, is, my license says professional engineer, right? PE, professional engineer. The P stands for professional. So you need to be professional, and being unbiased is definitely something that is a professional trait. But you also have to have your technical mastery of the topic that you're discussing on. So don't try and work outside of your expertise. And what we see with a lot of smaller firms that try and get into this, or maybe even some larger firms that are just like, hey, we've got a client that really needs our assistance, is they may not have an expert that actually has background in that or has knowledge base that would be supportive of it. And they're just trying to basically go, okay, yeah, here you go. And they throw it at it, and it burns them in the end.
Yeah.
Right? You get the expiration or the litigation or mediation, and they find out, the other side brings in an expert that actually has the technical mastery and goes, hey, what you're saying is not actually how this works. This works this way, and you're missing out on these principles. I think you're out of your depths on this. And, that's never a good spot for anybody to be in. So making sure you've got a pool of experts large enough that you're not throwing somebody at something that there's just not in their wheelhouse. That's very important. Credibility comes with time, and time in the game in which they're going to
reps.
They got to do the reps, right?
Yeah.
They got to do the reps in the field of the investigation. They got to do the reps in the mediation or the discovery side of things, and being grilled by attorneys. It's interesting because I've done expert witnessing across a lot of states, and it's always, some states allow for cross-examination of the experts and some states don't. So, it's always interesting when you're going in there and you're being an expert and you got an attorney trying to undermine your credibility, right? Is easy, but trying to find any hole into why are you even a part of this case? And it's always interesting in that. And then the last thing, it doesn't matter if you know everything, if you have the technical mastery to do it, or if you've got a well-built name from doing the reps. If you can't clearly communicate what's going on from a forensic side of it or how to fix the issue, it's not worthwhile to either side. So it is very important that you have all of those aspects.
Yeah, so those are all the things that we take into consideration when we bring an expert into the company and become a partner with that expert. And they truly are partners because they're an expert in their individual field, and we kind of connect the dots. We connect the dots, and, we want to have a pool of experts that we're putting out to these attorneys and these insurance companies that are effective, clear communicators and have good credibility. I think that's what you're saying. And so that's what we focus on when we're interviewing them. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we kind of hit on the technology a bit there when we squirreled there for that one little part of the conversation. And I know that you and Nate did a great deal of talking about it on the other podcast, which was completely eye-opening for me. But can you just talk a little bit more in depth about modern forensics and the technology behind it all that we use?
Yeah. So there's ways to explore what you can see in more detail. And now there's more advanced ways to explore what you can't see.
Yeah.
Right. So the Matterport modeling, the drones, those allow us to map and track things extremely detailed. The drone, being able to use a drone has massively advanced our abilities to investigate in detail tall buildings without the need for lifts or personnel or clearances or any of that. I mean, I literally have this $800 toy with a high resolution camera that I can fly inches off the face of a building and map everything about all of the building. It's a pretty amazing system. And then we can combine those elements and we can upload them, and we can get into some really detailed stuff with some of the other softwares that we have. One of the cool things that we're looking at right now, and this is different from the forensic side of it, but we're doing a Matterport model of a hotel that has a soft remodel planned for the next couple of years to educate people on this. So most people that own hotels, they're a franchisee of the brand of the hotel, like Hilton or Marriott. And then every so many years, they're required to basically do what's called a soft remodel. So they have a criterion of building finishes, furniture, paint colors, floors, stuff like that they have to put into it. And they have to basically, not every hotel has to be the same, right? So they can actually submit for review. What we can be doing with these models is take these models and create almost walkable mock-ups of what these lobbies and hotel rooms and stuff will look like with the soft remodel, with the proposed flooring and finishes and other stuff like that. It's really cool because then we can even do it larger scale, where honestly we could create an entire hotel that's fully walked through in a 3D model with all the updated finishes based on just going in and doing an initial Matterport.
I know we've been doing that for our single family builders and the 3D renderings. And that's been pretty impressive and a pretty powerful tool on the design side for kind of making final decisions. So it's crazy that you can do an entire, let's say, for instance, 17-story hotel, exterior and interior that way. That's pretty modern in its technology, I guess. I don't know how else to put it. But so talk about a little bit about the stuff behind the scenes. That's what you can see with the 3D modeling and the drones. And I know Nate was also talking about like sensors inside of walls or thermal mapping, or what's going on with all of that?
Yeah, so we can actually, when a home or building is being constructed or even post-construction, we can install monitoring systems throughout all of their services. So specific piping runs, gas runs, electrical loads, we can put in these monitors to track specific flow to those different areas, because most people just track it on a meter, right? That it's the main meter to the entire unit or the entire building, and that's just what it is. And in the case of like a hotel, it's really hard to tell if you actually have a leak somewhere, because water is constantly being used 24/7, right? Yeah. So they could have an uptick, they could have a leak in their pool or a major leak underground and have no idea about it for years. We can install these different monitoring systems on different branch lines to track that. So that's really cool. Again, some of the things that what you don't see, we have different types of photo imagery, thermal imaging, where we can actually essentially look into what's going on in a wall cavity, predominantly where you can look for like hot spots from electrical wiring. We can be looking for elements that maybe as a result of leaking hot or cold water, incorrect insulation, or deterioration of materials, which has basically resulted in voids in the wall cavities. When we recently looked at pairing up with our recent stuff on ICF, was the homeowner was questioning the consolidation of the concrete post-construction of the walls. And the builder was like, no, the concrete consolidated. Look, it pulled out the bucks around the windows and there was solid concrete around the window bucks. And he was showing the top and everything like, yep, there's concrete all in there. That thermal imaging camera doesn't lie. And sure enough, throw a thermal imaging camera up on the wall and you just see these massive holes throughout. Because the homeowner was like, well, I came by and I didn't see anybody going around with any kind of vibrator. They were just going around with the pump line and people were hammering on the forms and this and that. And sure enough, we just came around and with a thermal imaging camera, and here's these entire massive voids of concrete throughout the wall cavity. So very easy ways to find essentially what you can't see, right? The only way the homeowner would have been able to check that otherwise is just go in and tear some foam out and hope they find a void somewhere, right? So those are really good systems that we can use. There's always the long cameras, like similar to what like a plumber uses. Those are really advanced where we're able to use those in a multitude of different environments. To explore down into piping, wall cavities, HVAC ductwork, and really determine what's going on.
Has that been a common occurrence in commercial for a long time, but now it's kind of like, how race cars, like the technology kind of blends itself down into the standard line of cars. Has that been a thing on like high-end commercial that's been come down and then now it's kind of getting into residential, or does it not matriculate like that? Just like in-wall monitors and line, all that stuff seems to be kind of, as technology's gotten better, probably cheaper, but more available too.
Yeah, I think you're talking like the adopter bell curve, right? The early adopters, it's always very expensive. Yeah. And then you get kind of like this bell curve. And then over time, that technology really, it's at such a volume that the price of it goes way down. Yeah. And very much that the supplemental monitoring, you're definitely seeing being put in place in a lot more newer construction, still more the higher end custom level.
Smart home stuff has not been fully adopted in kind of the middle to lower end of even the new construction. That's still kind of staying in the upper end of things. So.
Right. So yeah, we're definitely seeing an advancement in that aspect of it. And it's really great. I mean, it is really great to see. It's the higher end custom homes you're seeing implementing it, but you need that customer base to then increase the volume to make it cost effective for the masses. Right. Yeah. So that's just how technology growth works and adoption. So over time, we're going to see it. And over time, I think you're going to see it more implementation into across the board. We already see it in a lot of your multifamily construction, And I actually have a neighbor that he has a business that does that, but they do it for like warehouse complexes, storage units.
Does it lower your
like
insurance?
I don't know on that. More it's peace of mind for the owners.
Yeah.
They're able to monitor more detailed the flow of everything to their individual units, especially their storage units and warehouses. You know, the biggest thing I would say we've seen recently result in a massive improvement in insurance rates has actually been the insurance companies finally recognizing the resilience of ICF construction. But the other part of it is, you know, from a builder standpoint, I mean, it's expensive to get builder's insurance because lawsuits are so high.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a huge proponent, and we love to work with the proactive builder, the builder that's not just trying to slap on a home and move on to the next, but really is trying to figure out, how do I make this the best home to where I'm not going to result in lawsuits down the road? And that's really important. Or if they do find themselves with an issue, they're the ones calling us.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Yeah, it seems like with all the technology that's happening, chain of custody is important, even more so with digital data. So we've talked about the lawsuits happening, the study happening, then the courtroom happening. And then how do you make sure that you get to the right people that use the proper protocols, so to speak, with all of that?
It is all about proper file organization. And I mean, anytime I've worked with an attorney, we keep a pretty tight wrap on our folder structure and what we share. You know, in the end of it, most states require us to share everything. Even if we have a rough draft of a report that we didn't actually make a final, you know, we create that rough draft. And if it's in the file, it goes to them. So, but we do keep it well protected and well organized. And this is, again, why it helps to have a large network of experts with diverse experience and diverse knowledge. When things come about that maybe you're not fully understanding, you have this portfolio or Rolodex for us older people, a Rolodex of experts, a CRM, I guess is what everybody calls it now.
Yeah.
Used to be called a Rolodex, that we can bounce ideas off like, hey, this is what I found. What are your thoughts of what's going on here, and get it figured out.
Yeah, I'm on the operations side of the business. Obviously, Royal's on the expert side of the business, and that's why he's providing a lot of the insights here. But just on the operational day-to-day part of the business, I know we built a very robust, streamlined process within our CRM and within our operational tools in order to take the information that Royal and his group gathers out in the field, bring it in, analyze it, create a report, protect that data within our systems, and provide it to either the litigators or the claims people with the insurance companies with a very robust process that keeps everything under wraps, locked down, and does not have any kind of corruption or shared ability with anyone but the person that it's going to directly. So for operationally, it's very tight, and there's a very succinct process that it goes through when it comes in from the field. And so I just want to kind of mention that too, that it's been fun adopting and creating that process and getting it ready for market. So
as we built it out, our systems, the thing that a lot of people don't know is what we do for our home builders. Our builders are able to quickly submit any project directly into our portal, and then they can monitor the progress and the status of any of the projects they've submitted within our portal. They can see who it's with, where it's at, who it's with, what's going on with it. And then we have an entire support staff should they have any questions.
Yeah.
And we're basically duplicating that for the PLIRIS Forensics side of it. So whether it's an expert trying to get on with us, we have an entire process for that to get them from, hey, I'm interested in doing this work, to, okay, now you're fully live on our website. People can see you. You've got your video interview, you know, and we're providing you some help and coaching on how to be a better expert, all the way to what we do for our insurance companies and our attorneys, where once we are contracted with them, they literally just go into our portal, log into our portal, drag and drop the case. They can drag and drop all the case files. And then a project manager is calling them almost immediately going, okay, let's go through this. What kind of expert, you know, or let's schedule a meeting. What kind of experts are you looking for? What's going on with it? And boom, we have them at least 3 experts very promptly.
Yeah. It's just that easy, and everything's secure. Everything's accessible via the cloud, ready to go. So we're really excited about this launch. We launched the website, relaunched the website, should I say, a couple weeks ago. Is that right?
Yeah.
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 And so we're fully up and running, and we've got a whole campaign behind it, and we've got a whole bunch of people that Royal's connected with in different avenues that he's bringing people in. We have about, I want to say 700 different experts and insurance agents and attorneys that we are working on getting into the system. And so it's a pretty big deal. And so we're very excited about it.
The flood of experts and attorneys and insurance companies, a lot of that comes from the credibility of the experts that we already have and that we already have connections with. Those are people that I've known, that I've worked with on prior cases or have connected with over the years, and that we're excited to see an opportunity like this. This is something I've had as a vision. Frankly, since I launched PLIRIS, I knew we were going to eventually have a forensics division. I just made sure I stayed in contact with the people that I've worked with over the last couple decades, and it just makes me sound old when I say that. But I'm excited to get them into the system, get them exposed, get them additional exposure, because they are extremely knowledgeable, very credible, have worked on hundreds of cases, and
they got their reps.
And they got their reps in. They bring a ton of value to our end client. Absolutely.
So what are some takeaways, Royal, for people today as we relaunch into this venture? It was already rolled out, but this is really like the official go-to-market.
Well, and I'll clarify that when I say relaunch, it was a web developer issue, not a company issue.
Yeah.
We had a fantastic web developer when we first started PLIRIS, and he was also a great friend. He wasn't just an employee. And your health and your time are the only two things you have.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he developed a brain tumor, and he was gone from us very quickly. And we've struggled to find a replacement. We finally got a solid replacement who's been doing a great work for us. And so he was able to go into the framework that we already had there and really revamp it and bring it up to date with the current technologies of stuff, and also gave us time. PLIRIS has grown significantly, and I wasn't able to focus the time that I needed to on the PLIRIS Forensics side of things really until I got some right people in the right places. And we've done that now over this last year, and it's brought a lot of opportunity. So I'm really excited to get this new division of PLIRIS going.
So we're looking for some key takeaways. Mine would be bring it on, experts. Come in, contact us. We want to talk to you. We mainly focus on what areas of building forensics. Is it all building forensics, commercials like skyscrapers? What are some takeaways we can give the market and also potential people that are interested in contacting us for these services?
The biggest thing on the expert side of it is express. It doesn't matter if you've got a bachelor's degree or a doctorate, certifications or a license, or if you just what we call an SME, a subject matter expert, like the guy that found the issue on the Whirlpool fridge that nobody listened to, right? He was somebody that had 20 plus years experience working on this exact product. And he saw the issue the second he saw the design.
Yeah.
And so there are people out there that are that way. I mean, I'm thinking like HVAC technicians. I mean, there's some HVAC techs out there that they have certifications and knowledge in specific HVAC systems that there may only be 10 or less of them that in the entire nation that have expertise in that specific type of system. And, those people are what we call SMEs. They know so much about that. Those are people who are highly valuable in that they probably know better how the system works than like a mechanical engineer that just is expected to know all the systems. And yet this guy has 20 years working specifically on these specific smaller systems. So that's where the value really comes in. And we love to see those kinds of people. So don't sell yourself short. If you're listening to this and you're like, well, I don't have a license or a degree or this or that. If you've got a great resume and for a fact, I have a lot of expertise in these specific things, those cases come along, those things happen. So let's get you in there. For the insurance companies and the attorneys, we have a great way to keep you organized, up to date as we bring new experts. And we'll constantly be updating those on the website. Specialty experts we're definitely going to have here on the podcast, or they're going to always have an interview up on the website. And if you even just register with us as somebody that's interested, we'll be able to constantly update you. We're probably going to be sending out like a weekly email of see our new experts, and we'll have a whole list of all the experts that we've added to our portfolio. So we're really excited to have that.
That's free marketing for them too. If we're putting it out in the world, that's part of our deal with them. If they come in and they sign up with us and want to be a partner with us, we're going to put their name out there, and it's a good deal. Attorneys, what do?
Yeah.
They need an expert. They can call us, right? Sure. And insurance companies, same thing. If they have a claim they need help with, just get a hold of us, go to the portal, sign up. That's got to be a competitive advantage. I mean, the way I see it in the industry, we're vertically integrated, right? So there's not 15 different people coming together to do all of it. We have the architecture, we have the engineering, we have the experts, we have everything kind of the connected. So it's a vertically integrated thing that's a one-stop shop, hence the PLIRIS name. Complete.
Right.
Well, in other words, measure twice, litigate once.
Dang it.
No, I had to do it. Yeah. Dad jokes, yeah. That's so funny. Well, that's a really good discussion. I think it's exciting to be out there. It's exciting to get this started. I can't wait to get the marketing campaign going and get all of these different experts up on the live on the website that we have. And so it's going to be an awesome 2026. So
yeah.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving. Or post Thanksgiving.